Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Helene Barr, the Bureau Chief of the Climate Change and Clean Energy Program here at the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. And over the course of this meeting, I will be serving as your moderator. Today, we are here to discuss New Jersey's Appliance and Equipment Efficiency Law and the department's intention to embark on a rulemaking progress to support this law. Improving energy efficiency is an essential strategy towards helping the state achieve its climate goals. And appliance and equipment efficiency standards are one critical tool to ensuring reductions in energy, water usage, and greenhouse gas emissions. Further, efficient products save consumers money by reducing utility bill costs. These minimum efficiency standards ensure that all consumers receive the benefits of more efficient products and appliances. Today, you will hear presentations on key provisions covered under the Appliance and Equipment Efficiency Standards Law and have an opportunity to provide feedback directly to the department to influence its rulemaking process. We will hear first from Bob Kettig, Assistant Director of the Climate Change, Clean Energy, and Sustainability element. Bob will provide an introduction and background on the state's greenhouse gas reduction goals, the role appliance and equipment standards play in achieving those goals, and an overview of New Jersey's existing law. Next, Matthew Rivas, our Appliance Standards Rule Manager, will do a deep dive into existing requirements and DEP's preliminary considerations around testing, certification, and labeling by appliance. This will be followed by a brief discussion on enforcement. And finally, we will close out with an open public comment period. We have prepared a handful of questions we are requesting specific feedback from the public on. Feedback can be provided directly in the chat or submitted via our appliance standard email address. In addition, we have pre-registered stakeholders who will be providing comments. If time allows, we will open public comments to anyone else on this webinar. Following this meeting, it is our intention to develop and publicly release an FAQ document in response to comments and questions. If you are not able to comment today, our public comment period will be open through February 13th, and we will be accepting comments via our email address. So before we jump into our presentations, I would like to just review a few of our ground rules. This meeting is being recorded, and by being here, you agree to be recorded. A copy of this meeting will be posted on our Appliance Standards website. All attendees currently have their video and microphones muted. If you have a comment or question, please enter it into the chat. You can see at the bottom of this slide a little image. This is what you should be seeing at the top of your webinar window. You should see an icon for chat. If you click on this icon, a chat window will open up and you will be able to submit comments. Again, to reiterate, the department does intend to develop an FAQ in response to any questions or comments posed today and during our comment period. And this FAQ will be posted on our website after the comment period closes. And again, this presentation is only for informative purposes only. The statute takes precedent over the information presented in this presentation. So one last plug, we'll be accepting written comments through February 13th. You can send them directly to our email address here at appliancestandards@dep.nj.gov. And now I'm going to hand it off to Bob Kettig, the Assistant Director of Climate Change, Clean Energy, and Sustainability here at the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Bob will provide a brief introduction and background for our rulemaking efforts.
Thank you, Helene, and thank you everybody for joining us here today. New Jersey is committed to being a national leader in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and maximizing energy efficiency remains to be a key component in achieving that commitment. Next slide. So the state's climate action is guided by a series of greenhouse gas reduction goals. The Global Response Act established 2 greenhouse gas reduction goals for New Jersey. One was to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to 1990 levels by the year 2020, and 2 was to reduce statewide greenhouse gas emissions 80% below 2006 levels by the year 2050. In 2021, Governor Murphy signed Executive Order 274. This order established an interim greenhouse gas reduction target of 50% below 2006 levels, which is approximately 60 million metric tons by the year 2030. Between 2006 and 2020, New Jersey reduced its greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 25%. Meeting the ambitious goals of reducing 50% by 2030 and 80% by 2050 will require an economy-wide transformation that demands all economic sectors, levels of government, companies, communities, and individuals to accept and adopt changes in how we generate, transport, and consume energy. Next slide, please. So the greenhouse gas emissions in New Jersey, where we stand, the residential and commercial sectors together make up the second largest source of emissions in the state. The electric generating sector is the third largest. Finding practical and affordable ways for consumers and businesses to reduce emissions in these areas is therefore very important. Greenhouse gas emissions are emitted by both residential and commercial buildings through direct emissions that are produced on-site at the facility and via indirect emissions that occur off-site but are associated with the building sector's use of electricity. Direct emissions come from on-site consumption of fossil fuels such as natural gas, fuel oil, and propane that are used for space and water heating, clothes drying, cooking, and needs and management of waste and wastewater. Indirect emissions are associated with grid-supplied power used for lighting, refrigeration, air conditioning, heating, and other appliances. Next slide, please. So what are the appliance and equipment efficiency standards? State appliance and equipment efficiency standards establish minimum efficiency requirements. They create net benefits for homes, commercial enterprise, and industry by reducing waste. These standards typically prohibit the sale of less efficient models within the state. Making them consistent across many states makes compliance easier for manufacturers and retailers. Next slide, please. So, appliance and equipment efficiency standards are one of the most practical energy-saving policies available. These programs keep energy inefficient products out of the marketplace and ensure energy and water efficiency levels that are widely achievable. The key four benefits are reducing energy use, lowering greenhouse gas emissions, saving consumers money, and also by lowering the demand for electricity, we improve grid reliability. Significant indirect emissions from residential and commercial buildings come from appliances that use electricity and natural gas. Thus, more efficient appliances reduce energy demand, improve grid reliability by reducing load on the grid. These actions in turn reduce the state's greenhouse gas emissions. Reducing wastewater also lowers emissions because less power is needed to prepare and distribute it. According to estimates from the Appliance Standard Awareness Project, also known as ASAP, in 2015 alone, appliance standards helped avoid carbon emissions equal to 63 million automobiles. As an added bonus, residents and businesses can save on the utility bills by taking advantage of energy efficiency appliance. ASAP estimates that on average, appliance standards save consumers about $500 per year on their utility bills. Next slide. So what are the estimated savings for New Jersey? Basically, it comes down to save money and reduce emissions. The annual bill savings are estimated to be $126 million in 2025, going up to $392 million in 2035, for a cumulative savings of $2.5 billion through 2035. The associated emission reductions, CO2, are going to be in 2025 an estimated 178,000 metric tons, going up to 448,000 metric tons in 2035. The cumulative emission reductions by the time we get to 2035, as a result of this, will be 3.6 million metric tons, and that is equivalent to an estimated 775,000 cars. Next slide, please. So the history of standards. In 2005 was the first time that New Jersey passed legislation to adopt appliance standards. These previous standards covered products such as commercial clothes washers, commercial refrigerators, transformers, and also illuminated exit signs. The standards were to go into effect in 2007. However, after Congress passed the Energy Policy Act of 2005 and enacted the standards federally, products covered under New Jersey's 2005 appliance standards, they were now preempted by equivalent or stronger federal standards. The most recent round of state appliance standards, appliance and equipment efficiency standards in New Jersey was passed in 2022, and they are going to come into effect on the 18th of this month, January 2023. So state standards. This map includes states that have adopted appliance and equipment efficiency standards. Many standards adopted by the state since 2001 have subsequently been enacted federally and have become the responsibility of the federal government. This map shows states that have standards that go beyond the federal requirements. Most of the requirements are consistent across these states, and there are only a few small differences. It should be noted that also Pennsylvania legislature is considering appliance and equipment efficiency standards as well. So the New Jersey Appliance and Equipment Efficiency Standard Law, what really goes into it? We're breaking it down into 5 key parts. One is the standards. Each listed appliance will have an efficiency standard requirement established by the law. Depending on the appliance, the standard will be written in the law, like for instance, like 45 lumens per watt, or it may point to a third-party standard. An example would be like Energy Star 2.0. Testing is required in the law. Each appliance is required by law to be tested. Testing is the process by which the manufacturer will demonstrate that an appliance meets the standards identified in the law. Depending on the appliance, testing requirements may be identified in the law by pointing to a specific testing process. For instance, it may be a code of federal regulations for most water fixtures, or it may not specifically mention the process for testing, but it would point to appliances with Energy Star standards. Labeling is required in the law. Each appliance is required to have a mark, label, or tag that denotes the regulated product meets or exceeds the efficiency standards in the law. A manufacturer of a regulated product is required to label the product and packaging to demonstrate compliance at the time of sale. Labeling requirements are not specified in greater detail in the law, and this will be a key part of the rulemaking to provide additional clarity. Certification of each appliance is required in the law. Certification is the process by which the manufacturer of a regulated product certifies that the product is in compliance with the requirements of the law. The certification process is not specified in greater detail in the law, and that will also be a key component of this rulemaking initiative to provide further clarity. And enforcement will be a key component of this law. The law gives the department the authority to inspect, distribute the retailers and of regulated products and issue penalties for violations as appropriate. So the standards. The standard law has several third-party entities that are referred to for efficiency standards. They include Energy Star, US EPA WaterSense, and also the California Energy Commission. There is 18 main products covered under the appliance and equipment efficiency standards, and they fall into 4 general categories. They are air purifiers, fans, and lamps. The second one is commercial food service equipment. Third is water fittings, fixtures, and appliances. And the last one is computers, computer monitors, electric vehicle charging stations, and also portable electric spas. So there are some exemptions to this law, and they will be captured in the rule. Exemptions include made in the state, but sold outside of the state, made outside of the state, but not sold at retail in the state. And also exempted will be those installed in the mobile homes when built, and also appliances that are used specifically for recreational vehicles will be exempt. So what brings us here today? What this really comes down to is we need your input on how to write these rules to capture what is in the law and also provide a clear, concise path for end users, retailers, distributors to achieve compliance. The department intends to draft and adopt the rule and implement the provisions in the New Jersey Appliance and Equipment Efficiency Standards law. What we're trying to do here, this meeting is intended to provide information regarding the provisions of the Appliance and Equipment Efficiency Standards law, and it is the really intended for us to get feedback from the stakeholders to inform our efforts in developing this rule. So again, thank you for joining us here today. Your input is valuable as we embark on this very important rulemaking initiative, and I'm going to hand it back to Helene now to take you through the rest.
Thank you, Bob. That was great. A really nice overview on the background and importance of the law and the scope of what we're asking for today. Now we're going to transition to hear from Matt Rivas, our rule manager. He's going to be touching on certification, labeling, testing, and the enforcement elements of our upcoming rule initiative.
Thank you, Helene. And thank you all for today coming out to learn about New Jersey's Appliance Equipment Efficiency Standards. Overall, this introductory slide outlines at a high level the process for manufacturers to meet compliance. For testing, manufacturers will test annually their products in accordance with the appliance-specific standards in the law. For example, as Bob outlined before, that would be portable electric spas while having to meet testing requirements under ANSI. For labeling, manufacturers will label products in accordance with the law, and retailers and installers cannot sell or install appliances that have not been tested, certified, or labeled in accordance with the standards in the law. For certification, the department is currently considering through this rulemaking to have manufacturers annually certify products online through NEEP's State Appliance Standards database, also known as SASD. We will go through the certification process later in this presentation. SASD is a service that acts as a clearinghouse of approved appliances and is used by several other states to support their appliance standards programs. Testing. Testing is secondly important because it verifies that a regulated product meets the efficiency standards required by the law. The law requires annual testing of regulated products. The law also requires specific testing of products, as example before, for portable electric spas, residential ventilating fans, and more. The law requires that each product offered for sale in the state of New Jersey is in compliance with the provisions of this act by means of a mark, label, or tag on the product and packaging at the time of sale. The law also requires a manufacturer to include information about the mark, label, or tag used to comply with the provisions of the subsection in its annual certification process. The law also states that an existing mark, label, or tag, such as Energy Star, may be used to satisfy this requirement, provided that it clearly expresses that the product meets the applicable efficiency standard. The third leg of this process is certification. For certification, the law requires a manufacturer to annually certify their products to demonstrate compliance with the Act. The department is considering two certification processes that other states use, such as outlined before, the State Appliance Standards Database, which we will go through, and another one that is used in California is the Modernized Appliance Efficiency Database System. For the purpose of today's discussion, we will review SASD, or the State Appliance Standards Database. The Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnerships have developed the State Appliance Standards Database as a one-stop shop for existing standards and new standards. Other Northeast states, such as Massachusetts, have begun to list their products in the State Appliance Standards Database. Here are some product types that can be covered under the State Appliance Standards Database. All the products under New Jersey's Appliance and Equipment Efficiency Standard will be made available for listing and certification in SASD. There's also noted here that gas fireplaces are listed in SASD, but that is not underneath our law or regulation. Here's a quick snapshot of what SASD looks like in its directory. Users will be able to search for specific product types and see what products are in compliance with New Jersey's Appliance Equipment Efficiency Standards law. For more information, please visit NEEP's State Appliance Standards Database website. On this website, they provide support for industry, such as resources and commonly asked questions. And if you'd like to visit these resources, please go to neep.org/SASD. I will now walk us through each of the appliances covered under the Appliance and Equipment Efficiency Standard Law. The first category that Bob listed before was fans, lamps, and air purifiers. Here we see that all the standards for these products have been set in statute, and the department today, for the rulemaking, is seeking public input on testing, certification, and labeling. First up is the residential ventilating fans. Here the standard sets a maximum per unit flow. Under the rulemaking, we're currently considering the State Appliance Standards database, and for testing, that is specified in the law. Labeling, the department is considering no labeling requirement for residential ventilating fans. Next, under this category, we have fluorescent lamps. The standard for high colored rendering index or cold temperature and impact resistant lamps is specified in the law, and this refers to a code of federal regulations. The law also specifies the testing for these lamps. Through this rulemaking, the department will establish certification and labeling requirements. For certification, again, possibly through SASD, and labeling, we are considering the Federal Energy and Water Labeling Rule in section 305.23. For the state-regulated general service lamps, the standard references an efficacy of 45 lumens per watt as the standard. The testing is also specified in the Code of Federal Regulations. Certification and labeling, again, through this rulemaking will be established through SASD and the Energy Water Label Rule. Air purifiers. For this category of appliance, industrial air purifiers are exempt. The standard sets a minimum clean air delivery rate for smoke, sets a maximum ozone emission limit, and also sets partial on-mode power wattage. The department, through this rulemaking, is considering Energy Star 2.0 for testing. We are also considering certification through SASD, and labeling could be Energy Star or New Jersey specific labeling requirement. This will be outlined later again in the presentation, but for this fact here is New Jersey's standard is not the latest Energy Star label. Any new products that come into the market that meet the latest Energy Star standard will be deemed in compliant and could use that label. But any new products that come to the market that meet New Jersey standard, but not the latest Energy Star standard, will need a specific label. The next category of equipment or appliances are commercial food service equipment. Here are the statutory standards referenced in the law. All of these you will see are Energy Star. These include hot food holding cabinets, steam cookers, dishwashers, fryers, and ovens. First, we have commercial hot food holding cabinets. In the law, it sets that Energy Star program requirements for commercial hot food folding cabinets must be meeting Energy Star version 2.0. The department, through this rulemaking, is considering testing to that standard of Energy Star 2.0, considering using SASD as certification process, and also considering labeling through Energy Star. For commercial steam cookers, the standard sets Energy Star program requirements for steam cookers version 1.2. For testing, the department is considering Energy Star version 1.2 for testing, SASD again for certification, and labeling will also be existing Energy Star labeling. Commercial dishwashers. The department is considering Energy Star for testing requirements, version 2.0, certification through SASD, and labeling again will be considering Energy Star and or New Jersey specific labeling requirements if a product meets New Jersey standard but does not meet the latest Energy Star standard. Commercial fryers. The standard in the law sets that all commercial fryers must meet Energy Star version 2.0. Testing will also be to that standard, Energy Star 2.0. Certification will be done through the State Appliance Standards database possibly, and labeling will also be considering Energy Star and or New Jersey specific labeling requirements. Commercial ovens in the law are set to be required to be meeting Energy Star requirements for commercial ovens 2.2. Testing will be done to the same specific standard. Certification will be done possibly through the State Appliance Standards database, and labeling will also be considering existing Energy Star labeling and/or New Jersey specific labeling requirements. The third category here is water fittings, fixtures, and appliances. In the law, the standard sets performance criteria for faucets, shower heads, urinals and toilets, water coolers, and spray sprinkler bodies. In the law, faucets must meet that the maximum flow rate for bathrooms, kitchens, and public bathroom faucets are all in the law. For the purposes of today's conversation, I would suggest looking at the law or visiting our website to see those specific flow rates. The purpose of today's meeting is also really to get your feedback on where we're considering certification through SASD and labeling. We're also considering the energy and water labeling rule. The law specifies that testing must be done in accordance with the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 430, Appendix S, Subpart B. For shower heads, the law sets a maximum flow rate for shower heads. Again, I would refer to the law for those flow rates. Testing is also specified in the law, and through this rulemaking, the department will be establishing certification processes and labeling, both with the Appliance Standards database and considering the federal energy and water label rule. Toilets, also known as water closets, and urinals are established performance criteria in the law. The standard sets maximum volume for toilets and urinals. Testing is done in accordance with the law for these two tests, and also because of the nature of a toilet, there's an additional waste extraction test. Certification and labeling are also going to be providing greater detail through this rulemaking. Water coolers in the law must meet Energy Star program requirements version 2.0. For testing, the department is considering the subsequent testing to meet that standard 2.0, certification through the State Appliance Standards database, and labeling, the department is considering Energy Star existing labels or a New Jersey specific label. Spray sprinkler bodies. The standard in the law sets an integral pressure regulator in compliance with the water efficiency performance criteria and other requirements found in specifications for spray sprinkler bodies version 1.0. And this is a water sense. This is different from the other materials appliances that we're looking for, that commonly referred to Energy Star. So I just want to flag that for yourself. And then that this rulemaking, the department is considering using that specific specification for testing, certification, the State Appliance Standards database, and considering water sense for labeling. The overview requirements for this last category include portable electric spas, computers, computer monitors, and electric vehicle service equipment, also known as EV charging stations. For this category, all the standards are set in the law. This includes the American National Standard for Portable Electric Spa Energy Efficiency, 14/2019, the California Code of Regulations, Title 20, Section 1605.3, Subpart V, and for EV charging stations, you have Energy Star version 1.0. First, portable electric spas. The standard in the law sets that all portable electric spas sold or installed into the state need to meet the American National Standard for Portable Electric Spa Energy Efficiency, 14/2019. This rulemaking, the department is considering that standard for testing. We are considering using the State Appliance Standards database, and labeling is also considered using the same exact standard as well. Computers and computer monitors. The law specifies that all computers and computer monitors sold or installed in the state must meet the requirements of the California Code of Regulations, Title 20, Section 1605.3V. The testing is prescribed in the law to that reference, and certification and labeling are being considered through this rulemaking through the State Appliance Standards database, and also considering the California Rules Section 1606. The standard specifies that all electric vehicle service equipment in the state must meet Energy Star program requirements version 1.0. It's important to note here that this specific version is only to level 1 and level 2 chargers. Through this rulemaking, the department is considering using version 1.0 testing, the state appliance standard based as certification, and labeling. We're also considering Energy Star as well. The last portion of this presentation is enforcement and inspection. Overall, enforcement and inspection for appliances is covered in a variety of ways. The first portion is that code officials will inspect for appliances upon final inspection. Secondly, distributors and retailers of appliances will be subject to periodic inspection by the Department of Environmental Protection. The DEP also shall investigate complaints of noncompliance. The DEP shall also make information available to the public when products are found out of compliance. Beginning January 18th, 2023 again, we have a provision here that upon final inspection of or installation of any appliance or product subject to the State Uniform Construction Code, the official is required to check that the product contains a mark, label, or tag denoting the product meets or exceeds the efficiency standards. For enforcement and inspection. With prior notice, the department may periodically inspect distributors or retailers of new products to determine compliance. The department shall also investigate complaints received in violations of this act, and the law specifies the penalty schedule. The first violation will be a warning. The second violation will be a civil penalty up to $1,000, and third and subsequent violations will be a civil penalty not more than $5,000. In addition to the above penalties, the department shall issue an additional civil penalty equal to twice the cost of the purchase of the product and the testing of that product. The department should also make this information available to the public and any products not found to be in compliance with the standards. And through this rulemaking, the department is currently considering making this available to the public through NGEMS. The law also has one other section for a 3-year report that looks forward. By January 18th, 2025, the Department of Environmental Protection, Board of Public Utilities, and Department of Community Affairs are required to conduct a study to evaluate whether to add more products and/or adopt more stringent standards. The department is required to submit this report to the governor and legislature for recommendations of legislative action. At this time, we'll turn this presentation back over to Elaine, and we will go through the requested feedback and public comment period.
Thank you, Matt, for that informative presentation. So now is the fun part where we get to hear from our participants. To kick off this process, the rule team has posed a few questions to the public to help inform our rule writing process. I'm going to quickly read through those questions. Participants are free to enter responses directly into the chat today, to provide feedback via written comments, or to speak to these questions during our open mic period. Once I get through those slides, we're going to hear directly from our registered speakers. I will call out 3 names. If you're on the call, please use the raise hand feature and we will unmic you. And additionally, if time allows, we're going to open the floor to any other participants who would like to comment. As a reminder, at the top of your window, you should be able to see 2 icons, one for chat and one for reaction. If you click on the chat button, a window should open where you can submit comments. And if you click on the reactions button, you should see a handful of emojis, including a raise hand feature. And that's how you're able to raise your hand. So we just have a few general questions that we're seeking feedback on. The first is in terms of looking at annual reporting cycles for manufacturers. This information will help inform our certification requirements, as we would like to make this as streamlined as possible for manufacturers. The second question is seeking feedback on what additional resources the department should post on our appliance and equipment efficiency standards website. We would love to hear if there are other resources and information that would be helpful to manufacturers, code officials, contractors, or the general public. Next slide. Our next question is around labeling. So we're looking on input, specifically on the type of labeling information, whether that be the manufacturer name or model number, that should be required for products that cannot utilize third-party labeling. So these would be products that meet Energy Star standards in the law, but don't meet the most current Energy Star version specifications. And our last set of questions is around benefit assessment. So we're seeking input on sources of data for regulated products, including that product's energy use, its sales and market penetration within New Jersey. Through this rulemaking, we're going to be quantifying the benefits of these new standards in terms of energy, costs, and emission reductions. So sources of other information that can improve benefit assessment, for example, improved methods for quantifying use and consumption would be extremely helpful. We're also seeking input on that mandatory 3-year study and report. So if you have ideas for other equipment or appliances to consider for future appliance standards, please provide those as well. And again, feel free to drop any responses to these questions directly into the chat or to send written responses to our appliance standards email address. All right, so now we're going to turn to commenters who pre-registered. To ensure that all commenters have an opportunity to speak, we're asking that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. All commenters, please plan to introduce yourself and the organization you represent prior to commenting. If you happen to be representing someone who was registered to comment but could not attend, please raise your hand when I call that person's name. We will be enabling your mic to ensure you're able to speak, but please note you will be muted after your comments. So the first 3 people I have, and I'm not sure that they're on the call, is Mike Winka from the Winka Community Clean Energy, George Kutsuders from Bryant Electric Company, and Brian Mafia from George Plumbing or General Plumbing Supply. I don't know if there's anyone on the call from those 3 organizations. Oh, looks like Kyle has his hand up.
Oh, thank you. I'm not with any of those 3 organizations. I did register to provide a comment, but apparently it didn't go through.
Oh no, we have it. We have you listed below, but that's okay. You can go.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say I'm Kyle Thompson with the Plumbing Manufacturers International (PMI). So we represent the manufacturers of plumbing fixtures and fittings like water closets, urinals, shower heads, and lavatory and kitchen faucets, those that are being specified in the efficiency standards law here. And I registered to comment because I wasn't sure, it wasn't clear what the labeling requirements were going to be and what the annual certification requirements are going to be. So it is good to see that you are considering the listing with the Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnership, the SASD system. That's currently what many of our members are using because, again, like you said, other states are going that direction. And as far as the labeling requirements, the federal requirements are, compliant. So that's also good news to us. And that's all that I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay, so next up I have Sharon Robinson, Nancy Martinez from AirDog, and Kathleen Foley from Creativity Abounds. Is anybody from one of those organizations on the call? Please raise hand. Oh, looks like Kathleen.
Oh, are you calling me now, Kathleen Foley?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Actually, I made up that Creativity Abounds. I'm retired from CPA, but I am very creative. But yeah, it sparked my interest. I already put it in the chat, but it was more of the length of time that these units do last. When my neighbor says that she was told the dishwashers now only last about 7 or 8 years, or different appliances. That was more my concern, not really the energy usage of these appliances. And then I typed in a little little sidebar on composting toilets. Having formerly chaired the Point Pleasant Beach Environmental Commission, I know like the beach bars that use a lot of water, and it's kind of goes through them kind of fast, whether it's beer or margaritas. But it would be nice if they had some composting toilets there too. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Okay. Up next, we have Jacob Cassidy, Joel Hipp, and Kevin McJoin. Looks like Jacob, you've been unmuted.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure if
That's
you're gonna
okay.
call on me again or let me
A little
put
bit of
my
a delay
hand
with
down
the
now.
unmuting.
Okay. No, I also was worried my computer froze. So
Yeah.
double win. So thank you for calling on me, Jacob Cassidy with Home Appliance Manufacturers. We represent basically, as our name says, the home appliance industry. We have 3 divisions: major appliances, portable appliances, and floor care appliances. I'm here to comment on the air cleaners. That is in our portable division. AHAM has been working with every state that has passed a similar law on this question of labeling and the Energy Star issue that was addressed by Matthew earlier. In addition to wanting to make everyone aware that last summer the U.S. Department of Energy decided to include air purifiers in the appliance as part of Energy Policy and Conservation Act, or EPCA. So very similar to what was outlined with the New Jersey standards of 2005, the federal government and US DOE is acting to put standards out for this product. We're hoping that would be finished by the end of 2022. To that extent, we also had Senator Jean Shaheen, from New Hampshire introduce legislation in the Senate that would simply move this product to that program. So I think what I'm trying to say, hoping is that there's some way that some sort of, for this product, while this happens, which we hope that DOE will put out its final rule within the next couple months, that there's some level of enforcement discretion as you consider it, or even just if there's a way to pause the labeling creation for this product. The DOE's standards will go beyond Energy Star. It will actually put in more stringent standards. So even Energy Star 2.0 will be outdated once these go into effect. So it might be easier to talk maybe offline. I don't know if Matthew's the right person or if you are, but we're certainly here to work with New Jersey, as we have other states, to kind of smooth this out and maybe take something off your plate as well.
Okay, thank you. Yep, that'd be great. And I believe we have your email address, so we can reach out directly through your registration here. Okay, thank you. I think we have Joel Hipp. We just have to unmute you. Just bear with us. Takes a moment. Joel, are you unmuted yet? Oh, he's unmuted. Okay. If you want to speak.
I'm sorry, I was on mute on my own computer. Thank you, Elaine. My name is Joel Hipp. I'm with ITW Food Equipment Group. We manufacture commercial food service appliances, including dishwashers, fryers, ovens, and so forth. And I wanted to comment on 3 different portions of the requirements: the effective date, the annual testing and certification, and also the labeling. On the effective date, I believe trying to enforce this beginning next week seems a little premature, considering that you're still reviewing how to actually enforce these requirements. So I would recommend that be extended until obviously the implementation requirements have been finalized. And speaking of that, I extremely pleased to see that you're considering the SASD database. That's a central organization that's been used by 10 other states so far, and it's going to be a lot easier to try to maintain our equipment on that database than to try to do it through individual states. And as far as the annual testing and certification, if you don't use the SASD database, then that would provide or impose a tremendous burden on manufacturers to make us test our equipment annually, considering we have literally hundreds of different models and families and so on. And also, this is a tremendous burden of resources and time and cost for building these appliances, testing them, and then selling them as used, or essentially not even selling them at all. And finally, on the labeling, my recommendation would be, obviously, if you accept the Energy Star labeling for the current version, that would be great. But if it's a product that is not certified to the latest Energy Star version, but still meets the New Jersey requirement, I would recommend that the label simply state what the energy efficiency ratings are. For example, on a commercial dishwasher, model so-and-so has a water consumption of X gallons per rack and an idle energy rate of X kilowatts. If we do that, then that would satisfy any other state coming on board that implements the same requirement, rather than a label that says this product complies with New Jersey rule so-and-so. So that's my recommendation.
Great, thank you so much. Really, really great feedback. Thank you. And, you know, we definitely are aiming to try to be as consistent as possible with all the other states that have implemented these, understanding the burden on the manufacturing community, the distribution, and even our own, you know, compliance and enforcement capabilities. So, okay, our next 3 speakers are Elisa Schur, Mark Malatessa, and Michael Johnson. He's from Delta Faucet, Lixil, and Home Ventilating Institute. And I apologize, I know I'm butchering people's names left and right. Just raise your hands, and I'm being told that you know, once we unmute you, you also have to unmute yourself. So it looks like Elisa's raised her hand. Lisa, I don't know if you can unmute yourself yet. Being told your mic is enabled, so you maybe just have to click on the mic. It's clicking, but needs to be unmuted. Oh, apologies. All right, I just allowed your mic one more time. See if that worked. Looks like you're off. You're on mic. You should be able to speak. And we can't hear you if you are speaking. Looks like you're back to being muted. I don't know. Okay, sorry. I will just move on. Okay, Mark. Are you on the call?
Can you hear me or no?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Honestly, I didn't have anything new to add other than it is good that you are considering the NEEPS program.
Great. Good to hear that everyone thinks that that's the program to go with. Definitely helps reinforce our initial thinking. Thank you. And Elisa, we're going to try to get back to you at the end. We'll try one more time. And I think Michael Johnson, I think you commented that you didn't have anything to comment. Okay. All right. So moving on, we have Misty Gard, Samantha Waldron, and Daniel Gleiberman. All right, Misty, you should be able to unmute yourself. Yep. I think you have to click on your mic one time. No, not working. Apologies. You know, no matter how many times we do this, it's never quite simple. Looks like you're enabled. Your mic is enabled. I'm not quite sure. Oh, looks like if you speak now, we should be able to hear you. Ah. Sorry, Misty, we're not hearing anything if you're trying to speak. Okay, Samantha has noted she has no comments at this time. All right, and then I don't believe Daniel Lieberman was on the call. I don't see a hand up. Okay, and Misty's going to switch her interface, so we'll come back to you. Fernando Fernandez from Toto, Christina Busanix from Frank, and Alex Baker from National Electrical Manufacturer Association. Are one of you on the call and would like to speak? Please raise your hand. Okay, Fernando. My tech support is telling me that, yeah, that your mic input might be set to another device. All right, Alex Baker has no comment. Fernando, are you ready? Looks like you're.
Yeah, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Wonderful. So I just wanted to make a few quick comments. The first one, which is regarding the annual testing and certification. So, for example, with federal law, while annual reporting is required, annual testing is really left to that, where if a product happens to be redesigned or modified such that the energy consumption is impacted, then it would need to be retested and reported back. But to echo the comments from Joel Hipp, it would be quite an undue burden to manufacturers to be retesting every product annually. It's quite a daunting task. Second of all is just to applaud and recognize the use of the SASD system, the NEEPS and the MIAB, for example, what California Energy Commission uses as well. That's extremely helpful and just overall increases the efficiency for having these databases to report to and for New Jersey to recognize. So I applaud that. And then as far as the effective date goes, I would also recommend that it be implemented once the public feedback were to be resolved. So those are my three basic comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina, I see that you put something in the chat. We will unmute you as well if you want to speak. you, again, to reiterate, you're gonna have to unmute yourself as well once we enable your mic. Your mic is now enabled.
Hi, I'm Christina from Frankie, a manufacturer, and what I wanted to reiterate was annual testing is a major burden, especially on unchanged product across multiple lines. Might not even be doable annually, depending on what you're looking at, to get all product tested in every year. So I don't quite understand the reasoning in why a product that hasn't changed or legacy product would need continued testing, and reiterate that the simplest labeling that would work across states and the federal government, you know, what is flow rating, et cetera, would be the best. We're already fairly cluttered with lots of required labeling. It loses its impact with consumers and installers too when there's just lines of labeling.
I understand that. All right, thank you. Thank you
you.
for your comment. Alex has declined to comment in the chat, so I'm going to move on to Eric Miller from the NRDC, Vanessa Moreno from Pulse Shower Spas, David Pringle from Clean Water Action, and Fozu from Intertech China. Anyone? Looks like Eric is here. Enable his mic, please. Thank you. Your mic is now enabled.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Eric Miller, and I'm the New Jersey Energy Policy Director for the Natural Resources Defense Council. We appreciate the opportunity to provide comment on the DEP's proposed appliance standard rule. We strongly supported the legislation that led to this proposed rule, and by extension, we strongly support the proposed rule today. Appliance standards are a win-win climate solution, not only to more efficient products, reduce GHG emissions from the building and power sector, but also decrease energy bills for New Jersey's residents, which is incredibly important given that it is the second largest source of emissions in the state. With regards to the implementation of this law, we support the use of SASD as a compliance mechanism for this, given the work already done by NEEP in this area. We also support the inspection and enforcement schedule for this regulation. One comment I wanted to make with regard to the effective date is I just want to underscore that, you know, it is not a DEP proposal that the effective date be January 18th. That's a requirement of the legislation, and therefore we don't think there should be any efforts to delay that date. And on the general questions proposed by DEP today, we'll be submitting more detailed written responses. So thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Eric. All right, Misty, we're going to try again. We're going to enable your mic. Great, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Looks like you're still muted. Yeah, okay. And then Elise, we'll try with you one more time as well. Your mic is now, you should be able to unmute yourself if you want to try. And again, you know, everybody can just submit written comments as well. Or if you want to talk in person, you know, we're open to having discussion. At this time, if anybody else would like to raise their hand to speak, we can just go through, you know, as you pop up to the top. Great, Misty, you're again enabled, so you should be able to try it one more time. Oh, looks like you can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, thank goodness. I sincerely apologize for
Okay.
the technical difficulties, but appreciate your persistence with allowing me to speak.
Yeah, no problem.
So my name is Misty Gard from Regulosity LLC. I'm representing Neopearl Incorporated with my comments. Neopearl is spelled Neoperl. Neil Pearl appreciates the opportunity to provide feedback to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection on the rulemaking for the implementation of the Appliance Standards Law. Neil Pearl is a leading technology company that offers innovative solutions for drinking water. Neil Pearl products shape the water stream, regulate the flow rate, and protect the water from contamination. Founded in 1959, Neil Pearl is a worldwide company with over 6,700 customers from multiple industries and retail. Valves and hoses. Neil Pearl respectfully provides feedback on the following 3 topics: annual certification, marks, labels, and tags, and submission of mark, label, or tag information. Regarding the annual certification of products, Neil Pearl respectfully recommends relying on existing product certification systems used by manufacturers and supports NJDEP's proposal to use the California Energy Commission MAEDBS system. A second product certification system used by manufacturers is NEP's SASD system. The SASD system is used for state-specific appliance efficiency requirements that deviate from federal and California requirements. In summary, Neil Pearl respectfully recommends you rely on CEC's MAEDBS system supplemented where needed by the SASD. Regarding marks, labels, or tags, the law states compliance is confirmed by a mark, tag, or label on a product and on the packaging. I'm going to discuss 4 challenges of labeling replacement faucet aerators on the product itself. 1, due to the size of the replacement faucet aerators, the text is not readable by a consumer. Replacement faucet aerators are, on average, between the size of a dime and a nickel. The smallest replacement faucet aerators are, on average, the diameter of a ballpoint pen's body, which is also called the barrel of a ballpoint pen. 2, the face of the replacement faucet aerator is perforated for the flow of water with no solid surface for text placement. 3, the sides of the replacement faucet aerator may contain vent openings to allow for aeration with no flat surfaces for text placement. And 4, replacement faucet aerators with threads and special design replacement faucet aerators are installed into the outlet of a faucet with only the perforated face visible with no solid surface for text placement. In summary, Neil Pearl respectfully requests an exemption from the requirement to label on the product for replacement faucet aerators and supports NJDEP's proposal to use the federal product labeling rules. Regarding submission of mark, label, or tag information, the law states that the manufacturer's annual certification shall include information about the mark, label, or tag used. For many reasons, a single product can have multiple marks, labels, and tags. I'm going to highlight 5 reasons for variation in marks, labels, and tags. 1, different markets, such as cities. 2, different retail display locations, such as Home Depot or other DIY retailers. 3, different private labelers of products. 4, different installation locations of a product due to environmental impacts. And 5, the consumer interaction with the product for durability. We have 1 concern and 3 questions about this requirement. Neil Pearl respectfully expresses concern about the magnitude of information required to be submitted. To provide context for our concern, in DOE's Compliance Certification Management System of Registered Products, there are currently 26,257 faucets, 10,357 shower heads, and 2,593 water closets. If each product has 3 different marks, labels, or tags, this request could require the submission of 78,771 marks, labels, and tags for faucets, 31,071 marks, labels, or tags for shower heads, and 7,779 marks, labels, or tags for water closets. Submissions of information at this scale will increase the administrative capacity required of all parties. Neil Pearl respectfully requests clarification about how the collected information is intended to be used for compliance purposes. Marks, labels, and tags for a single product can change for many reasons throughout a year. Clarification of the use of this information is necessary to understand whether the annual frequency of submission is sufficient to ensure NJDEP's information and the product information are consistent. NeoPearl respectfully requests clarification about what information is required to be provided. Clarification of what information is required to be submitted is necessary to understand the administrative capacity required of all parties. And finally, we respectfully request clarification about the process and system manufacturers will use to submit the information. The clarification on the process and system to submit this information is necessary to understand the IT infrastructure required of all parties to complete this requirement. So in summary, NeoPearl respectfully requests NJDEP remove the requirement for manufacturers to submit information about the mark, label, or tag used on products. We sincerely thank you for your time to provide feedback, and we offer our assistance with additional information, or even if you would like to have examples of replacement faucet aerators. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. T. Appreciate your feedback. Okay, so I have 3 other folks that have hands up. The first one is Matt. We are going to unmute you, Matt. You're going to have to unmute yourself as well. We're going to enable your mic, and then you should be able to unmute yourself now if you'd like to speak. All right, I don't think, Matt, that we're able to hear you. It looks like you're still muted to me. If you have to go to the mic icon at the top of your screen. So I think we're going to move on. You can drop in the chat if we can come back to you and try again. Thomas, we will unmute you now. So you are now enabled. You can unmute yourself.
Sure, thank you.
Yep.
My name is Tom Oxiger from Fortune Brands Innovations, recognized by brands such as Moen, House of Roll, and Riabel. We're a plumbing and fixture manufacturer. Some of what I'm going to say is reiterating what others in my industry have already said, but I did first and foremost want to say we do support New Jersey and the water efficiency standards and any kind of water conservation efforts. So we absolutely are on board. Also on board with leveraging the SAST, anything already as it relates to WaterSense, California Energy Commission, as well as the current federal regulations. I do want to piggyback on Fernando's comments. Do have a concern with the I guess the comment or the what was written in there in regards to additional annual testing. As he stated, our products do not require recertification annually if they have not changed. I would propose that does not change and that we maintain, we're already a regulated business. We already require third-party certification, that we stay consistent with what's already in place, as well as additional marking requirements. Obviously, our products are already marked and labeled. Our packagings are already marked and labeled, and hopefully you guys find that that's sufficient to support the standard. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, Elisa, we're going to try one more time. We've enabled your mic, so you need to unmute yourself. You still look muted on my end. Great. Apologies, I'm not sure what the technical issues are going on. Does anyone else have any comments that they would like to provide at this point in time? Please raise your hand. Kyle, we'll unmute you. Okay, you should be enabled.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I don't have any other comments. I do have a question. After hearing those comments, I may have misread the requirements in the law, or maybe misinterpreted. But from what I understood, is the certification with SASD would meet the requirement for the annual testing or at least showing, demonstrating compliance to the commissioner. Is that not the case? Matt, I guess this question is directed to you.
Helena, am I muted?
Yep, you're muted. Yep.
Thank you, Kyle, for that comment. We will be addressing that in the FAQ document.
All
Okay,
right.
that was it.
Okay, thank you. So Elisa, Matt, Matt, I don't know if we want to try one more time with you. You just have to unmute yourself. You say you still don't see it, so it should be at the top right when part of your screen. So unless anybody else has any other comments, I guess I would just like to say thank you. We really do appreciate your feedback. We are just embarking on this process, so we definitely will take this all into consideration, and thank you for your time today. And our next steps, again, will be once our comment period closes, we will be releasing an FAQ. We're going to look at all the questions we got today. We're going to draft some responses to that. And we will be emailing that out around to everybody, and that'll be posted on our webpage along with a copy of this webinar. So you can always come back and feel free to, also email us directly at appliancestandards@dep.nj.gov if you have any other follow-up thoughts or questions. I will leave it at that. So thank you, everybody. And thank you to Matt and to Bob as well.